So, bit of a run through of what we're going to go over today. The first bit's going to be about some basic information on why we use Facebook ads. And when I say Facebook, Facebook kind of own a network of social media channels. So they also own Instagram. So when you set up your ads on Facebook, you can just automatically put them on Instagram as well with the check of a box. They also own WhatsApp, and they also have various other network platforms out there, so that your ads can actually appear on various different mobile apps that Facebook also own. And then we'll go into the Facebook Business Manager. So this is separate from the Facebook page, and I'll show you the differences between the two. We'll go into how to actually create an audience in Facebook so that you are then able to target people, the right people with your messages. We'll then go over some content best practices, so a bit of images, talking about the different types of images we want to use on the copy. And that's probably where we'll get to today. And then after that, we will move on to boosted posts or promoted posts. Sometimes that's used interchangeably. Campaigns, and then also how to set up an actual campaign in the back end using Business Manager, content, and your audiences. And we'll actually upload one together on the Vonex channel. And then following that, how do we measure that they're actually effective and that they're getting the results that we want? All right, so this slide is just a bit of a recap of why social media advertising is really effective. So these are all stats from Australia. So on average, 59% of people access social media every day. And over a third of those check social media at least 5 times a day. And so it's got a high visibility network of people on there that you can target. Usage rates are 99% of those aged 18 to 29 are on it, and then it slowly declines as the age increases, but there's still close to 50% of 65-year pluses that use Facebook, and themselves, they all just kind of use it for a different, kind of in a different way. People check social medias, 96% of them check it at home, 59% in the bedroom, 43% on public transport, and 35% at work. So that kind of just gives you an insight into when someone's consuming your media, and that might play a factor when you're thinking about how to create the content. And then while 64% of customers are likely to trust a brand if it interacts positively on social media. So it's kind of like you want to be on the platform because there's a lot of people on there. You want to make sure your message is tailored to the right demographic and the time of day that they're on there. And then you also want to make sure it's a positive message so that you have a positive experience from seeing an ad on Facebook. I'm sure we've all seen ads on Facebook or social media that don't relate to us. And that actually gives people a negative representation of your brand if they see an ad that they don't really want to consume. So it's kind of trying to get all those points in together. This is a bit of a social media recipe that I use across a number of different avenues you can use social media for. So you can make content, you can make campaigns like engagement initiatives such as competitions, or you can advertise. So whenever we're coming up with a campaign, you've got your strategy factors at the top. So that's your demographics. What's your objective? What are you trying to do? You're trying to generate leads. You're trying to put your message out to a large volume of people. And once they go into like this funnel, we've then got content creation on the left, which that is content that makes people stop. Social media today is very overcrowded, and trying to get your message out there in the most creative way is a bit of a challenge for everyone. And then Facebook actually scores your ad based on its creativity. And if it's more creative, it will show it to more people at a cheaper rate for you. And then on the other side of that, you want content that creates an action, especially if it's lead generation. You don't want to just make content with no purpose behind it. So that's things like asking people to make an action like shop now, or it could be inquire now. And that should be embedded within the content that you create. And then the third part of the puzzle is the advertising. So today, social media is a pay-to-play platform, and it's very difficult to get your message out there if you don't put some degree of spend behind it. And it doesn't have to be millions of dollars. You can actually get quite effective and with a small budget but highly targeted. So that kind of makes sure that your content that you've created and you spent that money on creating it, and you've got your call to action right, and then your advertising just makes sure that all that you've done reaches the right people. And then that's when you get the success, is kind of the intersection of all three together. So we're going to try and cover most of these off today. A couple of benefits here. So the sheer size of data captured by Facebook in itself, it has 2 billion monthly users worldwide. And like we said before, a high volume of Australians use this platform. It has high level audience targeting capabilities, far more advanced than any other platform. And that kind of comes back to the first point. It's got so many people on the platform and so many people use it that it's able to harvest that data and follow people around on the internet to then kind of exploit and target key messages to. It's got lower advertising costs than, say, its other big powerhouse, Google. So it's on average 10 times cheaper than Google search ads. And that's mainly because, without getting into too much detail, Google search ads often present customers with a higher intent. Therefore, it thinks you should perhaps pay more for that because they're actually searching the keywords. Social media advertising, you're attempting to put seed the thoughts of your brand into people's minds that might not quite need your service right now, but they may need it down the line. So that's kind of the main two differences between them and why it seems to be a lot cheaper on Facebook. It gives you immediate feedback and testing, unlike print advertising or TV or radio. If your Facebook ad isn't working after 4 days, you can literally turn it off and save all your money, which is a positive. And then it's got high level storytelling capabilities, so you're able to up to a minute on Instagram in terms of videos. You can make carousels, you can make collection adverts, all this, which we're going to go over today, and it will really help. It helps get your message across. Some of the drawbacks: it's crowded and noisy as a platform. So if you don't get your targeting right and your message right, it can be difficult to be seen. And Facebook will just use up your budget even if it's not working. It's crowded due to fierce competition on the platform. You have a high level of exposure, which can lead itself to antiviral social media campaigns. And I think we've all seen a few of those in the media. So if you do get it wrong, it can have some serious consequences on the other side. It's a confusing interface for beginners to get set up and going on it, especially when it comes to the advertising side of it. And it's constantly changing. I struggle to keep up with its algorithms and its dashboards. And you constantly have to keep on your toes with, if it decides that now it wants to go in this direction, you kind of have to bend and go with it in order to get the best results. This is a bit of this is kind of like a really overview of how advertising works. So in order to get the best results, the first section we want to cover off is what is the objective and what is your budget. So objectives can come in many forms, from brand awareness to reach to post engagement, video views. It can go very e-commerce, to the e-commerce side, such as purchases, conversions, add to cart, email signups. There are so many different objectives that when you start, you kind of need to know exactly what you're trying to do. So as an example, with Vonex, we have a series of campaigns that are just about brand awareness. So we don't really want anyone to act on it. We just want to get this audience to see this post, and we want as many people to see this within a 4-week period. Whereas another campaign we might do underneath that is we actually want to get channel partner or retail leads within a certain area for a certain cost. So that would be a very different objective to the first one. The second one is once you've got your objective, you then need to select your audience, which is what we're going to go over next. And they can come in 4 or 5 different forms. And then once you've got your audience, you've got your objective, and you've got your audience, you then need to understand what content you need to create to appeal to that audience to achieve your objective. And then that's where the content selection and content creation comes in. So there's different types of content selections you can do, which we'll go over. And then there's also different types of content creation. And these are just some tips on, so bright human-centric images always perform better. And you need to grab attention early. So if you've got, say, an offer on, it needs to be within the first 3 seconds of a video. Otherwise, it will get missed. And short form is generally better over long form for ads, but not always the case. And think mobile first. So most of, I think even Vonex's ads, about 50 to 60% of brand awareness ads will be shown on a mobile and not desktop. So you need to understand if someone's looking at a tiny screen, how does my content look on that versus a big desktop? And then most pieces of content are viewed with the sound off if you're showing a video. So there are just a few things to bear in mind as we work along. So Facebook Business Manager, I'm just going to break out here, go to Facebook. Okay, so in Facebook, there are 2 different ways that you can have a business page, let's say. So, and I apologize for the string of pages I've got here, but this is kind of like where you go to get to a page. So, and you can go to this, we can go to Vonex page here. And this may be what most people are used to. And then this is where you kind of post your content, access your messages, kind of like your basic page level functionality. You can also boost posts from here, and you can also reply back to people. So it's just kind of your page overview. What we kind of want to do for Facebook advertising is set up a business manager, which if anyone needs advice on how to set that up, please email me afterwards and I can send across a documentation that takes you through exactly step by step how to set that up. But in Business Manager, which you click on through that drop down menu, you will then be presented with just one of these, which would be Vonex down here. This is the one we've got here. So you then go into your Business Manager and you would have an interface which looks something like this. Now, I just want to ask, are people familiar with this kind of interface?
No.
No, that's okay. So I guess I'm going to run you through how to use it in this interface. But if you do run ads already, you will be able to see how it reverts back to the old one. So hopefully you'll still be able to follow along. But once you're set up in Business Manager, you've got your Vonex page, and then you've got your ad account at the top, which is this section. So this is where you can go and access your page as normal, as we just did. It brings it up in the normal page, how you're used to it. And then this top section is what opens you up in Ads Manager, which, if you've run ads before, are people familiar with this kind of interface? Please let me know.
No, not really.
If not, that's fine.
No, not at all.
Not a problem. Well, we're going to go through it anyway. So when you're in this interface back here, you've got all these tabs down here which will help you set up your ads. So you've got Ads Manager, which is what we just jumped into, and this is where we will create our ad accounts. You've got your audiences, which is where, when we were talking about before, you need to get your audiences right in order to make sure you're targeting the right people. This is where you report on the success of your ads. Your ad account settings is basically all the finer details of like your time zone, the currency you want to use, the ABN number, your payment settings. And then the other one, if we just head back, wait for it to load, is business settings. So this is where you can add people to your account. You can add partners, you can add other pages, you can add your Instagram account, so it's all linked up. And this is kind of like when you click on it, you kind of just add a person, then you go through the steps, and it's quite self-intuitive. And then the last part is Events Manager. Events Manager, where you can set up specific actions that you want to take for particular sources of data. So this might, we probably won't touch on this, but for instance, if you've got a separate website and you want to track landing page views to that website, this is where we can do that. But we probably won't get into that much detail. So I think the next section I want to take you through is audiences. Okay, so there are 3 types of audiences that you can target on Facebook across both Facebook and Instagram. So the first one is a custom audience, and that's using pre-existing data that you already have on your clients. And this data is unique to you. So some examples of that could be any current clients you've got. Maybe you've got a database of email addresses, phone numbers, like addresses, anything like that. Maybe you've got a database of current clients, and you can actually, and I'll show you how to do this, you can actually upload that into Facebook and make an audience out of it. And maybe you've got a separate Instagram page, Facebook page, and you can actually use the data and the people that follow that page to make an audience. Or it could be a website that you've got. You can put a Facebook pixel on your website, which tracks every user that goes to your website and then links that with an existing Facebook account that they are already logged into. So there's different ways, or you could potentially, you've run a video, you've put a video up and it's organic. You can actually create an audience of people that have watched that video or engaged with a post on social media. So there's all these different ways that we can create custom audiences. The next one is saved audiences. So this is what I like to call a cold audience. So you've developed this based on demographics and interests of your ideal customer. So you've basically, that's you sitting down, a bit like making a marketing plan, being this is who I want to target, this is their age, this is their this is what they're interested in, this is the job that they have. They used to be able to go as far as targeting people with a certain income threshold. I think they've kind of changed that now. And in what location and what age range, do they have kids, like all these different kinds of targeting methods. And you can create an audience that you think is your ideal customer, and you can save that and target ads to that. And then the third audience that you can do is a lookalike audience. And this is where it gets really interesting. So you can take, for instance, a custom audience, we go back to 1, and you can make an audience that is 1 to 10% different in characteristics than that custom audience. So say you've got a database of 500 clients, and you've got their email address, you've got their name, and you've got their address, postal address. You can upload that to Facebook, that's your custom audience, and then you can make an audience that's 1% different to that, and then put out an ad to those for your business. And you can do that for all the different kinds of audiences that you've got. So the same as Instagram, a lot of people use this to grow their Instagram channel. They'll take their current audience, make a 1% lookalike audience, and then use that audience to grow that Instagram channel as best they can. So those are the 3 types of audiences. And this kind of, I think we just kind of went over this. So custom audiences, social media followers and engaged users, customer lists, website traffic, Facebook pixel, previous lead form data, video views, any of those things. So let me just break out here and show you exactly how we create a custom audience. So we're in our business manager section, and you would need to be in business manager to be able to create an audience. We go to audiences on the left hand side. And then when we're in here, this kind of shows us all the audiences that are available to Vonex right now. So yours would have nothing in there if you have never done an audience like this. We go down to the blue tab here, which is create audience. And those are those three, just ignore that one for now, but the custom, lookalike, and saved audience, those are the three tabs that we just went over right here. So custom audiences. We go to custom audience. And here are all the data sources that you can pick from. So as I said before, the website, custom list, that's where you, for instance, would upload. You go next. Yes, oh no, we don't need to do that. And then you would upload a file, like an Excel file, and that's your current customer list. And you could upload that there. Call it customer list April 2020. And then you would, once it's uploaded, it'll let you click next. And then that kind of creates an audience in that would be like this. See, we've got a channel partner database list that we've uploaded last year on the 8th to 2019, and that would appear like that. Other methods are website activity. So we can basically, yeah.
With uploading the list, you'd be able to export from something like MyOb, for example. Like I'm thinking accountancy programs. This is just a question that's true. So it wouldn't integrate with those platforms, but instead you would download the CSV file and then you would upload it to Facebook as a CSV or as a Excel.
100%. Yes, CSV is what it prefers, and it's basically it will give you a bit of a guide on how to prepare your list here. So you need to have at least one main identifier. So email, phone, first name, second name. And then as many of these identifiers as you can get, the better, the more people Facebook will be able to match. Because if you think about it, someone might have entered an email address into your file, which isn't the same email address they use for Facebook. So then those two aren't going to marry up. But say you've got the same name and first name and second name and the mobile number's correct, it will match them up. So the more data you can get on that one person, the better Facebook, the more people Facebook can marry up, and then the better your data, your audience is. If that makes sense. Is there any more questions on that one? Well, I think we're good. Website traffic. So this requires that you've got the Facebook pixel installed on your website, which is probably another topic in itself. And again, please note that down if you want any advice on how to install that. It's very self-intuitive these days. And Facebook sometimes have walkthroughs that you can do as you go. But this enables us to track website visitors from specific all website visitors that go to your whole website, or you can pick specific web pages. So for instance, we recently ran a campaign where we only wanted to target people with a Qantas message once they went on the Qantas landing page. So we were able to generate an audience based on anyone who went on that Qantas page, exclude people that went onto the general website, and then show them an ad that was kind of like a way to get them back onto the website or to remind them about the offer that we were presenting. And you can also do it via visitors, how much time they spend on your website. So sometimes we want to only put an ad out to the top 25% of people that stay on your website the longest amount of time. versus those that might come on and bounce straight back off. So there's all these different audiences that you can generate. If you don't have much data, my advice would just be to target all website visitors to begin with. And then you do that the same way as we created the other. And then other key ones is a business Instagram profile, video views, lead form. So we often use this one. If someone has completed a lead form in the last 30 days, you might capture that, make an audience out of it, and then create a lookalike audience off that to find more people like those people that filled out the lead form. As long as those that filled out the lead form are good quality, that's when that would be useful. Does anyone else have any questions on custom audiences before I move along? I think we're good. The other type of audience, which is where you can target people that are new customers, that those new people you want to find that are just like your current customers. So this basically means taking a current source. So all those custom audiences we just created, we would select, so like, let's go to Qantas. So we want, for instance, people that have been on the Qantas points page. We want people in Australia only. And then do we want a 1% lookalike audience that's going to generate 184,000 people? Or do we want to create an audience that's 10% different, and that's 1.8 million people that we can reach? But bear in mind, the further you go up the scale, the less likely they are like your current customer.
And
so
Sarah, still put in like an actual location, like you could put in, for example, Tenterfield, and maybe Mildura for like regional locations, and then you could maybe make the audience bracket slightly higher percentage if it's a regional. Like, how would you juggle that? Because it would make the size smaller, wouldn't it?
Yeah, so what you'd have to do then is you can only do these audiences based on large geographical areas like Australia or United States. But when you come to creating the ad, which is what we'll do in the next session, you then narrow this audience that's 1.8 million and then in Australia, and then you put an extra requirement in there that you only target a specific area. So it will take those 1.8 million and only show it to those that fit that bill in that area. But to begin with, you need to create this huge audience. Yeah, that clears that up. And then we'll just create this now because we don't need to use it. But you just create audience, and then it just appears at the top. So this is a Qantas page point lookalike audience of 10%. And then it just starts populating it here. And then you can just keep going. You can make, basically what I do is when I setting up any ad account, I look at all my custom data. I get all that sorted and inputted into the audience list. And then I go through and I make a 1%, a 3%, and a 5% lookalike audience based on every single custom audience piece that I have, just so that you're set up and then you're ready to go. So if you can see here, I've got 1%, 3%, 5%. I've got another 1%, 3%. So when we come to create the actual ads, which we will do later, these will automatically be filled in for you, and you just have to check a box. So you don't have to keep making these audiences over and over again. Saved audiences. This kind of works. Basically, this is kind of like you inputting all the data that you think you need, all the interests of someone that you want to target. So maybe we'll call this channel partners.
Or maybe a bit like business owners in a location.
Business owners. Yeah, that's a better idea. Thanks, Anna. Business owners, and let's go Brisbane. So here we can actually narrow it down. So Brisbane, and maybe like 40K is quite wide, maybe just 17K. And then we maybe pick people that are 25 to 50. We want female business owners. And then in the demographics here, we can get as creative as we like. So business owners would be one. And then business owners, and then maybe it's small business owners. And then maybe want to target business paid Facebook page admins. So obviously, if you own a Facebook page, you may have a business, so you may be interested. And then we can just keep going, picking any kind of demographic you think might be interested, your customer might be interested in terms of like, maybe they read the financial. You'd be surprised what comes up. Maybe they read the business newspapers. If you just sit down and think, what do they read? What do they listen to? What do they do day to day? And just type it in and see if it comes up, and then you can target it. And the more detailed targeting you have, the better. And then you would just click create save audience, and then there's your audience, and it will start populating. Any questions about that?
No, all good.
All good, great. So that's that section. The next section, which will probably take us up to the hour, is creating content. So like we said in the beginning, we've got our objective: brand awareness, lead generation, post engagement, video views, whatever it is. We then create all our audiences that we want to target, and that can be custom, lookalike, saved. And then when we've got that, we know what our objective is, we know who we want to target. We then need to make the content that is appealing to them. So there's different types of content when it comes to Facebook ads. So they can come, and we will go over and briefly go over all these in the platform. So you've got in-feed images and videos. So they appear when you're scrolling through your desktop or your mobile news feed in Facebook. They'll actually appear in the feed itself, which is probably the most recognized form of advertising. So there's a little spelling mistake there. It should be a T, not a D. Instant experiences and Canva adverts. So these are exclusive for mobile applications, and we'll go over one of those in a sec because it's a little bit hard to explain, but they're really good for brand awareness and traffic driving ads. And they basically, when you click on it, it kind of brings out more about your brand in the interface itself. So it's kind of great for the discovery phase of your business or whatever product you're selling. Facebook and Messenger story adverts, as well as Instagram. So there is a huge drive towards brand awareness ads for stories. So especially Instagram and Facebook, they are saying that on those platforms, if you have a brand awareness message or traffic driving message, Facebook's or Instagram stories is where you now get the most return. But if you actually want a lead or a call to action, or that customer to actually do something, stories is not the best place. It's still the in-feed images, because people just kind of want to consume content. They don't want to go off the platform. And then we've got carousel adverts, which we've got some great examples we've recently done from Vonex, and that's where we scroll through a number of different images. And then we've got dynamic adverts that kind of change depending on what people are looking at and what website URLs are on. So this is kind of, I'll just quickly recap. So this is your in-feed images and video adverts that appear here. Your instant experience. So as you can see, you've got a number of different products, or it doesn't even have to be products. It could just be like types of service, different types of service in your business could all pop up here. And then you've got an overarching brand message here.
So guys, like, you could be explaining what it is that in your business you do and what you're specialist at, and then you could have like the Vonex products actually featured in below there, and so people can then click them through, and Sarah can explain how that works further. but that's how it would be great to position you guys and really profile what you do at the same time as the products it's selling.
Yes, exactly. That's perfect. So if someone clicked on that, it would open up into this instant experience. And then you can see here, see more at Adidas, but that would be see more at XYZ. And then that would take them onto your website. So it kind of just gives people more of an overview of what you do before they commit to leaving the platform, which is quite successful for brand awareness ads. Your story adverts, this is kind of shown on Instagram. So it kind of takes you through different kinds of stories before it asks for a swipe up. So before you ask for someone to do something on a Facebook story, you kind of have to take them on a bit of a journey and before you get there. And then carousel adverts is this bottom one here where they kind of all link together. And if you can see these 4 little dots at the bottom, you kind of scroll through and each one of these, similar to what Anna just said here for the instant experience Canva advert, it would basically show a different service or a different point that you wanted to get across. So you don't have to get everything across in one image because that is very, very challenging.
That would be like a really good place, for example, to explain like how, what the difference between an ISDN connection is and why it's important to get on the NBN. It sort of allows you the opportunity to really tell a story in a more meaningful way.
Yeah, that's perfect. Yeah. So some quick stats. So getting your content message out there is like one stream, right? So this is what I want to say and this is how I want to convey it. And then underneath that, you've got, okay, well, what rules do I have to play by so that Facebook actually shows it to people? Because it's got all its own rules underneath that you need to abide by with your message in order to like kind of beat the algorithms and get the most for the money you're spending. So a couple of like quick stats that you do need to play by is, unless it's a story that you're trying to create, an ad for a story, you need to have less than 10% of the image as text. Now, it won't stop you from showing the ad if you do have more than 10%. It just means that it will make you pay more to show that to people because it kind of puts it in an ad category. Even though we're trying to make ads, it wants them to be as less advertising as possible. So try and make sure it only covers 10% of the image. Videos receive 38% more engagement than what static images do. So kind of bear that in mind. And there is a feature in Facebook, and we will go over this when we make an ad, where you can actually make your own video in there. You could have a series of images, like what we just did for the carousel. So you could have your series of different images, and then we could put them together as a slideshow in Facebook. So you kind of make your own video in there. So you don't even need to get, because I know video content can get expensive to create. Use imagery that is as high resolution as possible. There is a time and place for raw organic imagery, but I would say as it is organic, it should stay as organic, and any kind of ad you put out there should be as professional as you can. And to again go back to the first point we make, to make that positive experience for people when they see your brand. Ensure the key part of the message is conveyed in the first sentence. So that comes down to the copy at the top of the ad, which, I mean, we can kind of see it here on this example for Instagram, where she'll have download the app today and start your 7-day free trial. That's like the key message she wants to get out there. So it's conveyed within those first 2 to 3 sentences, as that's the most people might read. Some might not go past that.
So
and then,
Sarah, I have a question from Geordie. He's asking about when you post an image and it has too much text in it. He's asking, like, do you have to have it approved? Because like, is it that Facebook has to approve it first? My experience is that often they just won't run it because it won't work for the ads that you're doing. Could you explain that a little bit more? Because it is something that I mean, Matia and I always struggle with.
Yes.
Because we're not talking about a lot of text here. We're talking about text like proportionate to the page. So, you know, it's a small tile. If you have, you know, a massive sentence that takes up most of it, that can be the problem, even if it's not saying a lot. So can you speak to that in a little bit more detail?
Yeah, so when you upload an image and you want to promote that on Facebook, Facebook actually, it scans the image, and anything that kind of looks like text together, it will cover that square as having text on it. And if it's more than 10%, it A, won't show it, or B, may show it, but your reach will be severely reduced because it thinks it's too advertisement-like. So it kind of wants, what I would say to that is, it's better to have just a really engaging image with just maybe a sentence or two on there, or sorry, a word or two on there, and then support your copy in the top. So in this bit over here, this would kind of support the image you've got. So for instance, if we just use this one here, she's got any time here, which is fine. It's not too much text, but if she had another line on there, the reach would severely be reduced, or Facebook sometimes just won't even accept it. And if it's something people want to know more about, I can send around some examples of how you can use text on images that in kind of like creative ways, and how you can support that with copy. Because I know it is sometimes, for instance, one of Flight Centre's key strategies is to just put a blank image up there with 20% off all flights on, and Facebook will run that, and they will get a high return from that because that text is on the image. If it wasn't on the image, it probably wouldn't get as much return. So it's a balance between getting your message out there versus playing to Facebook's advertising rules. And sometimes it's better to put the text on the image because you'll get more results of what you want. I don't know if I'm talking around in circles there.
You are at that point, you're going to be paying through the nose to achieve that objective. When they've made that decision, they've gone, well, look, we'll take it on the chin, we'll spend the extra money because we think that this particular promotion, and there's still, you know, say 25% off, they're still not using like a lot of text on the page. That's like one sentence.
Yeah. So that's when it is effective to do that. Yeah. So you kind of have to weigh up. Again, go back to the objective. What's my objective? If it's leads and I want to get 25 leads from this, and it's because we're giving away free Qantas memberships, I would put free Qantas memberships front and center on the text in the image, because that's what's going to drive people to actually do the lead. But you will pay more for that on Facebook. Yeah. Any questions? Any more questions? Are we good? How are we going? Yeah, we're going good for time.
Yeah.
So there is a Facebook ads guide.
Sorry, Sarah, just a question. With putting free Qantas points or Qantas membership, don't we have to get approval from Qantas for using?
Yes, you do.
Sorry, that was an example.
Yeah, I might give you some guidelines in the next few days, guys.
I was just going to say, because I'm pretty sure you have to get approval, and
correct.
You were saying that, and everyone goes and does it, then all of a sudden.
Yeah. I was actually messaging Matia in the background going, oh no, this will be a lot of questions. So
that's why I thought I'd ask you. I waited for anyone to ask. No one answered. I thought I'd better ask it.
Well done, Sanjay.
Sorry, that's just my bad example. I was trying to get across. Say if it was flights and you had 20% off my flights, you would put that front and center. And yeah, don't use
a good one for you guys might be like free appointments. So like you might be offering a free FaceTime or Zoom consultations for clients or something like that. That would be really applicable and really show people how approachable and local you are. Or in addition, you could look at instead something like the free Vonex conference phone. We are giving that away for 6 months at the moment. So that's something that you guys could readily advertise. And around the Qantas stuff, we'll certainly give you some tools so that you know exactly how to promote that within our guidelines.
Even a free analysis on your current phone bill. Like do a free audit.
Yeah.
And these are all really great ways of using like key messages to capture people's attention. So if we go right back to that three-way and those 3 circles we had, that kind of covers your engagement side, because you're actually telling people this is what you can get if you do this. So that kind of messaging is really key to get into your ads so that you stand out from the crowd. And so yeah, that wouldn't be my specialty for you guys to come up with those. I wouldn't really know, but anything like that, brainstorming is a really, really good way to run an ad. And if you're ever stuck, and obviously you all get this presentation on what kind of videos, what kind of specs, different types of images should be. Facebook have this whole suite of information that will tell you exactly how to create it to be optimized. So for instance, if you're going to make a video, it needs to be 9:16 or 16:9 in terms of size, max 4 gigabyte, minimum video minimum length 1 second. I don't know who can say something in 1 second, but and then maximum is 240 minutes, which is quite a long time.
Guys, if
and
you're
it kind of just,
we might actually host another webinar just purely dedicated to content creation, and we might even give you a little bit of an insight to how we do it. We use a platform called Canva, and we could take you through that. So if that sounds like it'd be of interest to you, reach out to your channel manager and register your interest, and then we can look at hosting that probably before Sarah's next one, because it would be really cool if we could help you like creating your own content and how to do that. By the time we have the next webinar with Sarah and she's actually setting it up and showing you exactly how to build your next ad, you'll have that ready. So if that's of interest, please send a message to your channel manager.
Yeah, and that's really good. That'd be great, because I think the content is such a huge part of social media advertising that tools like Canva, we run ads for 10 to 15 different brands, and I think if we didn't have Canva, we would be very stuck on what we were doing with them. And they're actually in there, which Anna will share with you, they actually have all these specs set up for you. So you don't even need, you can actually go, can I make a Facebook ad? Like, I'll quickly just briefly show you. Like if you want to create a design, if you want to make a Facebook post, cover page, maybe we want to do a Facebook ad. It kind of brings up, okay, this is the specs, this is the exact size that I need, and then here are some templates. So, that's a whole different, like Anna said, another different kind of presentation. Where am I at? Best practices for content, and again, this might come into a separate session, but square videos take up 78% more of the mobile screen and have 35% more engagement. Think of using both videos and slideshows. Videos don't, even though it says that they get more engagement, I've found that depending on what your message is, sometimes a static image with copy on it performs better. So with any ad that I run, I will have 3 different types of content. One might be video, one might be static image, and one might be a slideshow or a carousel of different images. Because what you do is if you give that to Facebook, it will then decide how it can get the best return for you. Sometimes it's video, sometimes it's a static image, but if you give Facebook the choice, then you know you'll always come out winning at the end. And when thinking of content, think of content that naturally, organically performs well for you guys. Anything that organically performs well for you will do well as an ad as well. And then, as I said before, test as many pieces of content within one ad as you can. And just as a quick example here, we go to Vonex. For instance, this is a traffic driving ad we've got set up for Vonex. And in here, we've got our different audiences we want to target. And then within here, we've got at one stage, we had 6 different types of content going. And then what basically Facebook here is doing in the results section, it's telling us which is the most engaging, and people obviously like the donut advert, probably because it's a bit fun and quirky, and there's some donuts set up as headphones. We'll show it. And this is kind of a bit of a carousel ad, and this is kind of what we're going to go over next time, but I'll just quickly show you now to put it into context. And then you've got your different kinds of creative that all kind of link together as one, and people can slide through the different types of content and see if we can expand it. Desktop. And then we can kind of like slide across and kind of get different points across. And then I think just quickly, we probably go over copy. So again, I think content, you're probably right, Anna, is a completely separate thing, and you can delve right deep into this. But if we try and personalize your copy as much as possible to your audience, so if you're talking to business owners, make the copy appeal to those business owners, as opposed to like maybe we're going after large companies and we're talking to the admin manager there to get them across the line. That would be a different type of copy. Test both long and short copy. So within any ad, you can actually test 5 different types of copy. So you can definitely create up as many types as you like. Emojis highlight certain details and add eye-catching color, so don't be afraid to use emojis. Ensure the copy and visuals are aligned, as we've already mentioned. Leave you room for curiosity if possible, so ask questions in there and try and direct people to your website, and keep an eye on your ad quality. Again, that comes back to using all the high-res images and video content.
One of your best advantages, guys, is that you're local, and so you can really use the copy to call out where you're located. So you can say, hey, are you on the Gold Coast? Or, hey, are you in, I don't know, Mornington Peninsula? If people go, yeah, actually, I am in the Mornington Peninsula, it'll just connect with them a little bit quicker than, and especially in the context of, you know, where you might be promoting a particular product, it might really make you guys stand out as the localized point of contact. So I often think that even just putting a location in can be really useful in the copy.
Yeah, I'd second that as well, definitely. And people like to know that people, even though they're on a mass channel, people like to think that you're talking directly to them, not to everyone. So as refined as you can get it, and the better. And location is a great way to do that, because I think you're talking to them in their little home or in their city. Some examples, these are all just examples of the different types of content. So this one's really good because it's a video, it's got the sound off, so it's got subtitles on it, and there's lots happening in the background. This one's good from Airbnb because it highlights here exactly what they want to. So obviously that must be a good price for that particular Airbnb. So if you've got some kind of price advantage, you definitely want to put that front and center in your ad. This one was a really great, and when I send this across, it will link to them all. This one was a really good video that showed a lot of color and creativity. And this next HP one was really good at showing the advantages of that particular product or what they could offer in a video format. And then down here, I've got a couple of examples of what we just went over, a few of these, of what Vonex is currently doing. And maybe there's some ideas here that you could potentially pull on for your own creative, and especially like the rolling out of the office one. And it kind of ties it back to what's happening in reality right now, which comes back to the copy and being personalized to the situation, to the person, and to their interests. Which I think Anna might be right, might be good to do a bit of a separate presentation on this. And there's a couple of different apps here that can help you create content. So Facebook in itself can help you create the content. And this black one here is a video app called Dazzle, and that can help you make stories. story advertisements. Snapseed is really good for editing images that you have. InShot is really good for making video content if you need to. Canva is like a big one that will help you. You can actually upload your whole brand kit into there and just make your own types of content. And then Onfold is a way to make stories or put text on images as well. So there's various different
ones.
Want
to go ahead and set up an account with Canva if you don't already. I highly recommend doing that because I think we will host a webinar just on creating content, and we'll most certainly use that as the tool. So if you can get across it and at least have set up an account, you'll then be able to sort of play along with us, and we could build some content together if you have that all set up.
Yeah, so that kind of brings me to the end of this one. And setting up the campaigns will basically take everything we've just done and then we'll put it into practice here in Ads Manager. And I'll take you through step by step how to actually get some of these ads up here that we've got running for Vonex at the moment. And so I know we're already at an hour, but does anybody have any questions that they might want to ask at this point?
Just the correct spelling of the software that Anna said, Canva.
Yes, Canva. Okay, I'll type that in here. I'll provide a link too. And there's, I think I've got a paid version, but it is free to get set up. But I think if you want to use most of the features, it's about $15 a month.
Yeah. And I mean, the free one works really well. And if you guys fall in love with it like we have, it's a bit of a no-brainer because then you can have all of your stuff manually loaded into it. Tomorrow we'll send out a channel partner email to you all. Within it, we'll have this presentation so you can jump back in and dig out what you might need to as a refresher. But in addition to that, there was a couple of things that Sarah touched on, and that was the setup of the business manager account. There's like a step-by-step that she mentioned, having access to how to set up pixels for your website, and also the guide for text on images. So those three things we'll make sure that we link up in that email, and with Sarah's permission, we'll include her business information too, so that if you feel like you need the more hands-on, you can reach out directly.
Yeah, and if anyone's got any questions at all, just shoot me an email. I'm happy to answer them for you. Yeah.
We've got a question around call for action. What to do after a call to action, and that is from Kent over at Mildura. We might unmute him because I don't know exactly what he means there.
It's Shay, Kent's son.
Oh yeah, hi Shay. What's your question there, please?
We've been trying to run different ads just recently. They've been doing okay getting likes and different things, but as soon as we try and like get them to communicate with us, it just bombs.
Yeah, so that'll probably be, it's hard to know without seeing it, but it will be a combination of things. So it's either the audience isn't quite right, potentially the message isn't quite right, or there's not enough spend behind it. So it will be one of those three things. So say you've got your first message going out. Usually if I want someone to make an action, I will show them a first message that's not asking for anything, but maybe adding value to their life. So for instance, we've recently run a campaign where we gave them a free download for a work at home kit. So they could download it and get some tips and tricks. So they download that, and then once they've done that, we then might serve them another ad that's asking for their details or something from them. So it's kind of balancing that cold hard sell with people that you already know or know of you versus maybe targeting people that have never heard of you with a cold hard sell, because that won't work. And because they're unlikely to give you information if they've never heard of you. And so it would just be, you might have to like screenshot what you're doing and send it me in an email. And then I might be able to give you a bit more tailored advice on how to actually get that call to action to pay off. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yep. There's another question here. Do you breach privacy laws by uploading client info? So you guys might have been aware of the GDPR that came out in Europe last year. So if we were in Europe and we were doing this, technically, yes, you would need permission from those clients to upload their data into Facebook, but that's currently not a requirement in Australia. So you're not breaking any privacy laws by uploading your client information into your database, as long as they have subscribed to you in some way. So that because they won't ever know that you've done that to target them, if that makes sense. But if GDP does roll out in Australia, then yes, you then would need permission. Yeah.
So take advantage of it while you can.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. Because it probably will come here. Any other questions? Are we good?
That's us. Thank you very much, Sarah. You've been awesome. And I'm sure that if we can, everyone go away and sort of do their research off the back of the information you've provided, and then I can, put them in touch with you if need be.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
At the next step, if everyone's interested, is a bit of a content creation exercise, and then we might have a group in a fortnight or 3 weeks time. Might be interesting to do a little bit of a vote or something on the channel partner news, where you guys can maybe say what time is best suited and the frequency of these webinars. We know that they take time out of your day and that you're all busy people. You've all got appointments to get to. But I think that what Sarah's delivered today is really invaluable. So thank you very much, Sarah.
No worries. I hope it was useful. I tried not to make it too complicated, but
thank you, Sarah.
If there's any questions at all, please don't be afraid to reach out.
Thanks, Sarah.
Yeah.
Thanks, guys. Thank you for your time. Thanks, Sarah.
Thank you.
Bye.
All right. Bye, guys.